Welcome to Pilgrim Lutheran Church and School's virtual Sunday School. Today is a big day. Not only is it Valentine's Day, but it's also a day where we're going to hear the story of the Transfiguration, where Peter and James literally see Jesus in a new light. So let's go ahead and do our reading from Mark 9, verses 2 through 9, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what does this mean. The Transfiguration. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and John and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves. And he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice. "This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one with them anymore, but only Jesus. So, wow, on that one, we hear that story and we think, what does this mean? And I think of a phrase I say sometimes when I walk into a room and I see something that's happened. Maybe the room has transfigured from what the cleanliness that it was before. And I say, what in the world happened here? And so I kind of ask that question when I hear this story as well. And I think part of the answer is that it was nothing in the world, earth. It was a heavenly experience that happened up there on the mountain. And I also hear about Jesus being a dazzling white. And I do think of light when I hear white. And we've talked a lot about Jesus being a light and being a guide. And so here we have a story of Jesus, the S-O-N, being the Son of God and being a dazzling white. But what also happens with light? There's a hint behind me from the S-U-N that brings rainbows to us after a cloud has come over us. So they're 2 very different things though, because the rainbow is full of color. And a lot of times we think of it as inclusiveness and infinite. Every color in the world is included in there. And then when we hear the story of Jesus and he's a dazzling white, that's the complete opposite. It's very different, right? Just plain white, but dazzling. And when I think of plain white or clear white, what I think about is a blank canvas, a blank slate, sort of a story that's not written yet, or a picture that's not painted yet. And so this cloud comes in and we hear God's voice saying, "This is my son. Listen to him." And then I think about what would happen if I listened to him. Well, he talks about things like treat your neighbor as you would treat yourself. He talks about things like eternal life. He talks about things like forgiveness. And so I think about the picture that can come together in a world that has all of those things in it. And I think it's a pretty spectacular picture. And it starts to form with all of the colors of the world and all of the infinite possibilities. And so I think there's something to be said there between Jesus coming into our lives as a light and giving us the blank slate, and the work that we do in our lives as we listen to him to add all of the color and the rainbows and sunshine and hearts that come from our actions. So give that some thought this week and think about not just this one moment where Jesus was transfigured from being just standing there with Peter, James, and John to suddenly floating and being dazzling white, but think about the ways that you can help change the world. How are you going to color the world? What things are you going to bring? So think about that, and I will see you again next week.